Hello, everybody. It's the Fantasy Almanac here, back at it with another best ball draft video. In the last video, we ended up with some good people. We got Cooper Kupp, then Aaron Jones in the second, Leonard Fournette in the third. Really hopeful for another draft like that. We're about to get loaded in now. Let's see what pick we get. We end up getting the fourth pick here, which I really like to see. I feel like top five, definitely separates themselves from the pack, from the rest of the class. Jonathan Taylor, Cooper Kupp, Christian McCaffrey, Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, obviously in a tier of their own. They're all great players. Right here, I would be looking at somebody like Justin Jefferson, but if the draft goes a different way, I'm more than fine with that. Somebody takes Justin Jefferson at 3. Roro, I guess his name is. If he takes Justin Jefferson at 3, I would be more than happy to take Christian McCaffrey. Same thing if I can get Cooper Kupp, if I can get Jonathan Taylor. So no matter what, pretty much, I'm getting one of the top 4, which I'm very happy about. We'll see if some value falls to us, but if not, I'm very happy with Justin Jefferson. Yeah. Alright, so the draft gets kicked off here with King Skippy. King Skippy starting off. Let's see if he takes Jonathan Taylor, goes the standard route, or if he decides to switch it up a little bit. And he does end up going Jonathan Taylor, making a lot of sense. Can't really go wrong with a pick like Jonathan Taylor. Next up should be Cooper Kupp. I can see a McCaffrey here. I feel like they've been getting a lot closer in ADP as of late. Either way, again, you can't really go wrong. You're picking at top of the first round. There's really so many great players here. Can't complain with any of them at this point. I think a strategy now, more often, is to go with wide receivers over running backs early, because you can double up and get great running backs late into the second round. As very blessed goes Cooper Kupp, and like I said, Justin Jefferson could go 3, and he does. So we're gonna end up taking Christian McCaffrey here. Although Christian McCaffrey has been obviously one of the most injury-prone running backs of the past 2 years, completely burned his fantasy owners. I think you can't go wrong picking Christian McCaffrey here because of the upside. Again, this is a best ball draft where whoever performs the best that week is automatically put into your lineup. And at the end of the tournament, you can win a $2 million draft pool. Or you're entered, if you get first or second, you're entered in to win a $2 million draft pool. So Christian McCaffrey obviously has one of the highest upsides in fantasy that we've ever seen, putting together one of the best fantasy seasons of all time in 2019, with 1,300 rushing yards and 1,000 receiving yards. So you can't really ask for much more than that. Christian McCaffrey, one of the most talented running backs. Jamar Chase goes 5, which you expect. And then Derrick Henry 6 and Austin Eckler 7. Again, not really too many surprises. Derrick Henry going a little early. Oh, Dalvin Cook here. Dalvin Cook at 8 seems to be a little early to me, at least. Still a great player, but I don't know. I do get a little concerned with Dalvin Cook, especially drafting him that early, because although he is a great player, I think it is possible to make an argument that he has been pretty injury prone, and his ceiling is not as high as somebody like a Christian McCaffrey or an Austin Eckler. Joe Mixon at 9. I am a pretty huge Joe Mixon fan, but 9 is a little high for my taste. I'd probably prefer to take somebody like a Stephon Diggs here, and then see if you can get like a DeAndre Swift or someone like that in the second round. At this point, it seems to be a pretty standard draft, but running backs are going off the board a little heavier than usual, so it is possible we may need to get a second running back early, or take advantage of wide receiver values if they end up falling to us, and kind of sitting on something like that. Number 10, Diggs goes. I think that's a great pick, especially at 10. I think Diggs is probably a pretty good value at 10. Again, paired up with the best quarterback in the league, Josh Allen. I think Stephon Diggs is probably one of the best players in this draft. The next best wide receiver behind the top 3. Naji Harris goes to 111. Again, can't be too mad at that. The Steelers are going to be behind in a lot of games this year with their absolutely loaded division. So I think picking up somebody like Naji, where he's going to be heavily involved in the passing attack, and he's pretty much getting the ball every single touch. So I think Naji is a great pick there. I could definitely see it. Saquon Barkley going 13. I was kind of hoping Saquon Barkley would fall to us at 21. Again, I am a Giants fan, so I'm a little biased, but I do think Saquon Barkley does have access to a ceiling that very few other players can touch. Because of that, I think in a league where you have $2 million on the line and you need access to the highest ceiling, I don't necessarily care about the floor. I think Saquon Barkley is a very good pick because if he pans out and you have running backs like Christian McCaffrey and Saquon Barkley, and both of them do pan out, you have the best running back duo. 2 years ago would have been drafted number 1 and number 2 overall. So Travis Kelce goes 14, no real surprise there. Tyree Kill 15. Wow, that seems a little early for a guy like Tyree Kill. Again, I do love Tyree Kill as a talent, as a player, but going down from perhaps, I think right now the best quarterback in the league to, I would say probably at best at this point, a league average quarterback. No disrespect to Tua, but he hasn't really proven that he can get it done at this point, so I just don't see it personally. Leonard Fournette goes at 16, then Mike Evans. And we're almost ready to be back on the clock yet again. There's still a few players. Wow, I didn't even realize how much value was on the board. CeeDee Lamb goes to pick 18. That's a real value right there. I kind of wish I could have gotten him. DeAndre Swift, I didn't realize his ADP was going up to 15. I think getting somebody like him would be awesome. Never mind. Aaron Jones would be great. Mark Andrews, I wouldn't be mad with either player here. Whoever JD decides to go with, I will take the opposite, most likely. And yes, I will end up taking Mark Andrews here. I think Mark Andrews is great because, first and foremost, there really is no competition in that offense. I mean, Rashad Bateman's the next best player behind him, and then after that, it's Devin Duvernay, probably. You can make an argument for a few players, but namely Devin Duvernay. So I think he's in line for a ton of touches. Now this means we also only have to draft 2 tight ends. I could end up taking someone like Cameron Brate in the 160s. Or even, Gronk, if I really feel like playing this risky, now that his ADP has fallen so much. But I think Mark Andrews is a great pick. Now I can afford to wait and kind of not have to worry about tight end for pretty much the rest of the draft and address the wide receiver position pretty heavily. I think at this point, the top 4 will probably be off the board here. T. Higgins, A.J. Brown, Javonte, and Keenan Allen. But if I can get one of these 4, aside from Javonte, I would be pretty happy. Yes, T. Higgins does go off the board here. I would have loved T. Higgins 28, but I just don't think it's realistic. I would say if I'm eyeing up anybody, it would be Keenan Allen. But again, I'm not 100% sure at this point. I could say Alvin Kamara could be a good pick here. And now that he's fallen with his recent allegations. Because realistically, in this league, you never know if somebody's actually going to be suspended. Javonte Williams is still on the board, and so is Keenan Allen, so I may end up taking somebody like Keenan Allen. I think it's good to get a solid base from my wide receiver position. Alvin Kamara does go off the board here, so we are going to go Keenan Allen. I would have liked to have seen Kamara fall, but at the same time, I think if Keenan Allen went off the board, I would pretty much be forced to go Javonte, but I think that would have been a conversation for a little later, if I had been put in that scenario. But I honestly, at this point, I think Kamara over Javonte, even with ADP for Kamara being low. Again, this is best ball, so weeks 16 and 17 are really the weeks that matter as long as you can get in and win your league. So taking risks early on into the season with guys like Chris Godwin, Alvin Kamara, I'm even fine. I know it's a very risky proposition taking Deshaun Watson at his current ADP now, because if he does play, he would easily spike up to being like a quarterback 10. Josh Allen goes off the board. That's usually around where his ADP is. Javonte Williams does end up falling a little bit, as you do see sometimes in drafts. A lot of people are kind of off him. Michael Pittman, I don't get the Michael Pittman hype at all, honestly. I think Michael Pittman, well, he was good. He's really not the best wide receiver. He was okay, and now he gets a quarterback. People are saying it's a quarterback upgrade. I really just disagree. I think if anybody's watched Matt Ryan last year, he looked pretty washed, honestly. Carson Wentz didn't look great, but Carson Wentz still had 27 touchdowns and 7 interceptions in that offense. And Michael Pittman was pretty much the only wide receiver. He really had no competition. And still, he only finished, let me see if I can pull it up. I don't have it up right now, but he didn't even really do that well. Let me pull up his stats. $1,082 in an offense where he was pretty much the only option. I mean, the next best receiving option. I can't even. Who was it? Mo Alley Cox. I mean, the offense was really absolutely desolate, and Michael Pittman still didn't even have 1,100 yards, which is about the same as somebody like Kyle Pitts, who was in a much worse offense. Granted, there was still little competition for targets, but all right. So James Conner goes off the board. Jerry Jeudy going off the board very early. Wow. I mean, I like Jerry Jeudy a lot, so I'm not too mad at the pick, but I would have liked to have seen him at my pick, potentially at 45. I mean, I don't think he would have fallen there, but there's always potential he could have. There's a couple players of mine here, namely Deontay Johnson. DJ Moore, I don't think is going to fall to me. I still have 5 picks, but it is possible a guy like Deontay Johnson falls. Maybe some people don't like him that much. If not, I may end up targeting somebody like Cam Akers or somebody like Breece Hall because of their upside. I think targeting, again, these running backs, especially these running backs with very high upside like Breece Hall, early is smart because there are very few running backs with a ceiling cut. Like, Breece Hall's ceiling is one of the best running backs in the league out the gate. I think the probability that the Jets offense is really good this year is somewhat low. Oh my God, we may end up, and we do. We end up taking Deontay Johnson here at pick 45. To me, this feels like a steal. I mean, you can't ask for much more than that. We have 2 pretty consistent wide receivers who will get the job done for us. Potentially the best running back in the league. And Mark Andrews, the second best tight end, who could honestly ascend to be tight end number 1. I wouldn't be too surprised about that. Let's just take a look at this draft board. George Kittle goes at pick 44. Although that is a little early for George Kittle, ADP-wise, I think it is a solid pick. I don't really get why George Kittle is down so low. He's in a good situation. He's got a quarterback with all the talent in the world coming in. They just did one of the biggest draft day trades of all time to go up and get him. I think George Kittle is still a really talented tight end, and he does deal with injuries and never really gets all the touchdowns, but still a very successful tight end. I definitely would prefer him over Darren Waller. I don't fully get the Darren Waller excitement, but nonetheless, Darren Waller still is a good tight end. I just wouldn't take him where he's at his ADP. I have very low exposure to him unless he's falling. Here, there's 2 players I really like, namely Justin Herbert and Breece Hall. We'll see who ends up falling. I'm assuming it will probably be Breece Hall, considering this guy has 3 running backs, but you never know. It's best ball people always have weird strategies, and yeah, I was right. So we're going to go with Breece Hall here. Get 2 great running backs in bad offenses, but still very talented running backs. Breece Hall, they traded up to get him. Michael Carter's his only competition. I don't think Michael Carter's going to pose much of a threat, again, going in the 3rd round versus Breece Hall, going in the very early 2nd, and they traded up to get him. So I think Breece Hall's a very good pick here. Now, looking at the board, we have 2 great running backs, 2 great wide receivers, and a great tight end. We're in a position where we can get potentially a good quarterback at pick 69, considering value has fallen here. Patrick Mahomes, again, still on the board, ADP 47. Pick 55, he's still not off. So I think it is possible we can end up with a guy like Jalen Hurts if a run doesn't start to happen, which would be very nice if I can get a Jalen Hurts there and then try and get like a decent wide receiver 3, somebody like Drake London, a DeAndre Hopkins, a Michael Thomas. Probably not Michael Thomas, but maybe a Michael Thomas, someone like that. Going maybe even A.J. Dillon, Antonio Gibson. If value falls to us, we will definitely have to consider taking it. Right now, David Montgomery is still not off the board, which is fairly surprising. I think David Montgomery, one, he's a talented running back. he gets the job done, and he was pretty efficient last year, considering the offense he was in. And two, who does he really have for competition? I mean, Khalil Herbert's a good running back. We saw flashes when David Montgomery was injured, but other than that, they used David Montgomery as a total bell cow in the offense. It was very rare that David Montgomery was not getting the ball. And Justin Fields, you don't know if he's going to take a step up year two, but even if he doesn't, David Montgomery's still going to be getting the ball a ton. And at the end of the day, with running backs, volume is king. If you're getting 70% of snaps, no matter who you are, you're going to be getting fantasy points. That's the thing with Breece Hall. That's why I think Breece Hall is a very good pick, because no matter what, he's going to be getting fantasy points. As Pat Mahomes and Kyler Murray go off the board, again, Pat Mahomes falling all the way to pick 57. I couldn't justify a pick 52. I think getting good value at core positions is better, and then hoping a quarterback falls as they kind of have been in this draft. Kind of hoping for something like that is better, especially because quarterbacks do sometimes tend to fall. It really depends on the draft room you're in. David Montgomery finally going at pick 63. Wow. Oh my God. We were 4 picks away. There's still a few players on the board that I actually really like. Chris Godwin, Josh Jacobs, and Jalen Hurts are 3 players that I would gladly take at pick 69. Again, all with ADPs way ahead, 60, 62, and 63. That would be awesome. I think it's unlikely that something like that does happen, as Josh Jacobs does go off the board here, but it is possible. If I can get one of these 2 players, I'd be jumping for joy, especially Chris Godwin. But Jalen Hurts would also be a very, very good player. Oh my God, it could happen. This guy has a quarterback, so he probably will not be going Jalen Hurts, but it is possible, and he does go Chris Godwin. JD does go Jalen Hurts, so we do get sniped. Here, I'm thinking probably Antonio Gibson. There are other players that I like, but this wide receiver tier is pretty similar, whereas there is a pretty substantial drop-off after Antonio Gibson. I think I will go Antonio Gibson here, although they did draft another running back. I think Antonio Gibson at this point can still fill at least a first and second down role. And again, like I said, volume is king with the running back position. So if Antonio Gibson is able to maintain a first and second down role and maybe have some involvement on third downs, say 30-ish, 40-ish targets, then he would be a pretty efficient back and fulfill his ADP for this team. Now we just got to hammer wide receiver, see if we can get a quarterback, sneaky quarterback. But for right now, I'm hoping a guy like Drake London can fall to us. I would even consider, honestly, maybe taking A.J. Dillon here if he does end up falling. I mean, this guy doesn't, oh my God, his team, wow. Even though he did reach on a lot of his wide receivers, I think his team's not that bad. So here we have Amari Cooper, Russell Gage, and Devonta Smith going off the board. I think 76, I think we might be a little late and miss the boat on Trey Lance unless he does end up falling here. But Trey Lance would be a guy I would definitely be eyeing up at 93, and then pick 100 hoping for somebody like an Aaron Rodgers. I mean, it depends. This draft, it does seem that quarterbacks have been falling, so I think waiting and see if I can get good value somewhere is probably the better option. King Skippy does go A.J. Dillon, ruining our hopes for him, but I am kind of glad. I would like to see more running backs go off the board, especially with this guy. He's got 5 wide receivers, no running backs. I'm assuming he's probably going to go, and he goes Marquez Valdes-Scantling. Wow, oh my God. All right, now we got Royro here, Royro 39. If he goes Drake London, I will be a little mad. Drake London, again, going to be falling into a ton of volume here this season. I think he's somebody that could easily get 110 targets his rookie season just because there is nobody else. If he went Drake London here, if Roro went Drake London, I probably would have went DeAndre Hopkins, even with the 6-game suspension. DeAndre Hopkins, obviously one of the most talented players in the league. Maybe this year is the year he falls off, but again, he has access to that ceiling that few players do. So I think taking a guy like DeAndre Hopkins here in the 7th round could return some good ADP. Trey Lance going pick 77. Wow, so I stood no chance of getting Trey Lance. Even if I'd waited till the next round, he definitely would have. Even if he'd waited till 92, I would have just gotten sniped. But a lot of these guys don't have quarterbacks, but I still think that probably only a few of them will go quarterback, again, because of how value has fallen. If I could even end up with a guy like Russell Wilson, Tom Brady, I would be more than fine with that, as Dak goes off the board. There still is enough quarterback talent, as Russell Wilson also goes off the board. Wow. Get somebody like Tom Brady, Stafford, or Rodgers. As long as I can get one of these three guys, I would be more than happy. Because these are the guys who could still put up very nice quarterback one performances. And I'm getting them not at a discount, but it's nice when you can wait on quarterbacks and not spend a third round pick on Josh Allen. You could be getting guys like Javonte or Kyle Pitts. Whereas now you're getting guys like Drake London, Hunter Renfrow. I think the combinations are a little better when you go quarterback late, or at least later. Because I think getting a guy like Tom Brady here, Tom Brady again threw, I think, 44 touchdowns last season, 43, and then 40 the season before. Tom Brady's obviously an amazing quarterback who goes off the board now, but I'd say maybe even doubling up at QB if need be, or taking one of these running back values, Clyde falls to me, and then playing a hyper fragile build. Or going Allen Lazard maybe, and then Stafford, or Sky Moore, or anybody like that. Sky Moore has fallen a ton. Sky Moore used to be valued to pick 86, now falling all the way to 95. That's very surprising. I figured Sky Moore would rise, his ADP would go up. As rookie picks, hype, builds, and going into one of the best offenses in the entire NFL. With not as much competition, with Tyree Kill leaving. So I'm currently 3 picks away. I'm thinking Allen Lazard here. I think Allen Lazard would be a good choice. He has been rising in drafts a ton, but I think getting him here, if it's possible. JD is a very experienced drafter. He sniped us on a lot of players. His team is very, very good. Will he snipe us again? I think he won't. Wow. So we're getting Allen Lazard here. And then I think that, again, the best course of action is a lot of these people have QBs. There's only one person that doesn't. So I think getting a guy like Matthew Stafford here in the next round, or if not, Damien Harris, and then going hyper fragile RB and taking 3 quarterbacks later might be the best idea depending on how it plays out. Getting a guy like Stafford here, again, in the 9th round, versus taking Josh Allen in the 3rd. Josh Allen will obviously provide you with more points, but Matt Stafford's a very good quarterback. Matt Stafford, 41 touchdowns last year on 4,800 yards, and he didn't really lose much in the ways of talent, picking up Wandel Robinson, who could potentially have one of the best revived seasons we've ever seen under quarterback Matthew Stafford, going from Justin Fields, obviously, to Matt Stafford. Hey, what's up, Ma? Kind of in the middle of something. So right here, Matthew Stafford gets sniped again, so I would say we're in a situation where we pretty much need to take Aaron Rodgers here. Although I don't like reaching on players much, Aaron Rodgers is a player that is very easy to make a case for reaching on. Again, he's one of the most talented quarterbacks in the whole NFL. He did lose Devontae Adams, but they did draft Christian Watson and still have a very talented supporting cast around him. Justin Fields does go at the 102, so that guy probably, I would assume, have taken Aaron Rodgers. Unless he has stacks that he really enjoys, which he does. Darnell Mooney here. Justin Fields, I think, was probably a reach there. Let's just take a look at the board now, see where everyone's teams are at. So now we're getting more into, lesser territory when it comes to drafting. Got Miles Sanders, Dawson Knox, Tony Pollard, a lot of running backs going off the board here, which allowed us to kind of slip in and take an Allen Lazard. Aaron Rodgers going off the board. So we do have the Aaron Rodgers, Allen Lazard stack, which is very good. Now some of the rookies getting second-year players going off the board: Kadarius Toney, Garrett Wilson, Sky Moore, Christian Kirk. I think is an interesting pick. I personally wouldn't make it. I mean, I don't really like the team he went to right now. I think the Jacksonville Jaguars are an absolute mess. You really don't know what's going on with them for the future, but they did pay him 4 years, $84 million. So I do understand the strategy of following where the money is and kind of doing that. But I have seen situations where that hasn't worked. Like Jonnu Smith last year is a prime example. Jonnu Smith was a guy I was drafting everywhere. They gave him 4 years, $50 million. Unfortunately, I was wrong on that. I figured, one, the Patriots always love their tight ends. Two, 4 years, $50 million. He's going to be the tight end, one. And three, the Titans the year prior were using him a ton. And unfortunately, it just didn't work. But it's fantasy football. You live and you learn. There'll always be more opportunities to, make some good plays and some bad plays. And some of these players, obviously, probably won't work out, but the hope is that you get as many on your team as you can, and you draft as many teams as you can to hopefully end up with a few in the $2 million pot and then go from there and hopefully win a few. So right now there's a lot of running backs on the board. Melvin Gordon, Devin Singletary, Rashad Penny. But what we're hoping for is the one, the only Christian Watson. If we can get Christian Watson here and have the double stack with Aaron Rodgers, and we get sniped on Christian Watson. 4 picks away. There's been a lot of sniping this draft thus far. It's been a little unfortunate for us, but it's okay. You live and you learn. You can hope as much as you like, but that's what's great about fantasy football is that you can have these drafts where you get sniped, and then you have that one draft where everything goes your way, and all you're hoping for happens, and you end up with like one of the greatest teams. So that's kind of the hope for me. Usually, I usually try and play a more hopeful best ball draft because I figure that way I could hope for better players, and then eventually, hopefully, they come, and when they do, I have the team of a lifetime. As I'm going to take Michael Gallup here. Michael Gallup is going to be injured probably for the first few weeks of the season. But again, this is best ball. I'm looking for the end of the tournament, not the beginning. And now that really rounds out our wide receiver room, where we have some stable pieces and then some upside guys as well. So a nice balance. Stable pieces at the top, and then more drafting upside guys as we get later into the draft. And again, our cornerstone, Mark Andrews. So we really do have a pretty good team, I would say. I really do like this team. And taking Aaron Rodgers, too, is definitely the right idea. I would consider a guy like Tua maybe here later, but I'm thinking Daniel Jones I'm probably going to end up taking. Going to wait until pick 155, which I should. Yeah, 148 maybe, something like that, around 13. I consider taking Daniel Jones, maybe reach on him a little bit. King Skippy went from having... Wow. His team, I'm not really too big of a fan, honestly. I don't really like the Robert Woods pick. Even though he is walking into a ton of volume, he is like 33 years old. Rondale Moore was a player we were eyeing here, and now we don't get him. I think, honestly, I could consider going Kirk Cousins here if he does fall. If Very Blessed doesn't take him, I think I would pretty much have to. Because Rory has 2 QBs already, so I'm assuming he's not going to take him. So I probably will take Kirk Cousins here. If not, I'm thinking Pat Freiermuth. That way I could just round out my tight end room, and I just don't have to worry about it for the rest of the draft. We probably will end up taking Kirk Cousins here, and yes, we are taking Kirk Cousins. Getting the I think this is a absolutely fantastic selection here at 124. Again, getting a value on him. He's a guy who had 33 touchdowns last year. One of the most slept on quarterbacks probably in the league. He consistently gets tons of touchdowns while not throwing that many interceptions, and people are calling for him to get traded. So I think what I'm gonna hope for next round is now I'm kind of in a position where I can only draft 2 QBs. I probably still will end up trying to take somebody like Daniel Jones or Carson Wentz late, but I think at this point, pretty happy with where my QBs are. I'm pretty happy with where my wide receivers are. I'm pretty happy with my tight ends. I could go for another running back, but I think at this point I'm pretty happy at all my positions, so I'm just going to see what value falls to us the next round. Not really be too constrained with positional need or anything, which is nice. It's always the position you want to be in. Just taking a look at the draft board. These three players right here, Rondale Moore, Jameson Williams, and Pat Freiermuth, are all players I kind of would have liked to have seen fall to pick 124. I think Rondale Moore is being not slept on at this point, but I would rather have Rondale Moore over guys like Tim Patrick, Tyler Boyd. I see Rondale Moore, first of all, getting tons of added opportunity with DeAndre Hopkins out of the first 6 games. Also, A.J. Green, 33 years old. I mean, this is probably his last good year, if anything. He's always been injured. You never really know with him. I think A.J. Green's also a good late-round stash, but you never really know. And then they made the blockbuster trade during the draft for Marquise Hollywood-Brown. But other than that, they really have almost nobody. And Rondale Moore is being utilized in the passing game, in the running game. He can really do it all, so I think Rondale Moore is a good pick and somebody who's set to have a much bigger workload in this next year. Kenny Golladay, Mecole, Jarvis, Van Jefferson. Out of those 4 wide receivers, the only one I could really make an argument for is Jarvis. I think Jarvis is walking into a role where he's getting probably a lot of opportunity. You don't know with Michael Thomas. You really don't. And the only other wide receiver there is obviously their first-round pick, Chris Olave. I think Jarvis is poised to, if Michael Thomas does not play, get tons of work. And at the end of the day, tons of work at pick 129. If you can get over 100 targets, can't ask for much more than that. Van Jefferson, I also probably like. I think he's one of those guys, boomer bust, but I think in a format like this, it's good to have a boomer bust guy sometimes. So I could see the argument for Van Jefferson. I have been drafting a fair amount of Jacoby Myers, but I think I'm going to start drafting him a little less. With the addition of Devontae Parker, I just am a little concerned. So at this point, I'm 4 picks away. I think there's a couple of running backs that I like, I think, and also a few tight ends. I'm really fine with all of these top 5. I would probably want to take Mike Gesicki here, I think, or probably Madison, honestly. So I think I'm going to go with Alexander Madison. As 2 quarterbacks go off the board, Jameis Winston and Trevor Lawrence. It does seem a little early for Jameis. I personally would not have taken him there, but I totally understand. Oh, and we get sniped on Madison. I think Madison would have been a great pick there. A lot of these guys have a decent amount of running backs, but more of them are missing tight ends. So I think going with a guy like Mike Gesicki. Again, not having to worry about tight ends for the rest of the draft. Mike Gesicki and Mark Andrews. I think Mike Gesicki's being pretty slept on right now. Had 800 yards last year, and now he's getting Tyree Kill in the offense, where his role might go down, but he's going to be getting more and more efficient. Kind of like a Dalton Schultz situation. I guess the opposite now, but when he had Amari Cooper and CD around him last year and was just getting like fed targets, and they were very efficient targets because he has other receivers getting him wide open. At this point, I think I would love to see Ronald Jones fall to us here. If he doesn't, that would kind of stink. I think Ronald Jones is one of the running backs that I really, really like this year. I think Ronald Jones has the opportunity to start. They showed last year with their usage that they did not really want to feed Clyde that much. And although Clyde was dealing with an injury, Ronald Jones, they signed to a 1-year deal, has all the talent in the world. If he were to fall to me, especially with an ADP of 129, I pick 148, something that I just would not be able to pass up. And again, I am going to take him. And it's something where if Clyde Edwards-Helaire were to go down, Ronald Jones would be inheriting the entire pretty much receiving workload and the rushing workload in one of the best offenses in the NFL. So sign me up for that all day, especially at pick 148. The upside there is real. Can't ask for much more than that at pick 148. Daryl Henderson, I think is okay. I mean, they kept trying to give him the workhorse role, and he couldn't handle it. And Cam Akers coming off an Achilles tear. Coming off an Achilles tear in like week 1 or the preseason, and they gave him the ball in the Super Bowl, all of the playoffs. I just don't see how Daryl Henderson has any role this year. I think Daryl Henderson, I actually just recently made a trade in Dynasty, getting rid of him in a bigger deal for a first-round pick and Deontay Johnson. It was Daryl Henderson and Stephon Diggs for Deontay in a first-rounder. I'm very happy with that deal. It's good because now I got a ton of first-rounders and stuff. I'm not really I wasn't a rebuilding team, but now I think I am. I can get into that in another video though and talk about some dynasty teams, some dynasty things. But Michael Carter, Damien Williams, or is that? I don't even know. Is that Daryl Williams? Yeah, it is Daryl Williams. I didn't even. Wow. Oh my God. Kenneth Gainwell goes here as well. Now we're starting to get into Daniel Jones. I'm gonna pick 155. Now we're starting to get into the real bottom of the barrel players again. The reserve players, the running backs. We're starting to get into the lower tier quarterbacks. Joshua Palmer has been skyrocketing up boards with his increased usage. Corey Davis, I would not personally take. I think there's one player I'm eyeing up, and it's Tyree Davis-Price. Again, I made the point in my last video, but I don't want to sound like a spinning record. But Tyree Davis-Price, again, if you can get a guy like Tyree Davis-Price, especially in a round like this, where you pick 165, where you could potentially be getting a bell cow, I think there's really no way to argue against it. And then that would pretty much solidify my running back room. I wouldn't have to take anyone else. And then I could really just put my focus on wide receivers and see if a quarterback falls to me at a value. But yeah, that's really about it. I would say Tyree Davis-Price probably would be a great pick. And then I think I have pick 172. So hopefully Tyree Davis-Price and then George Pickens. Obviously, I would need a pretty heavy stroke of luck for that to happen, but I think going George Pickens and Alec Pierce also would be great, or getting one of those two guys. So as long as KJ Hamler going off the board early. I've been pretty supportive of KJ Hamler. Marvin Jones, I really don't understand. He's 33 at this point, very old wide receiver, I think. And going to a team that kind of stinks. Oh my God, it sucks drafting next to this guy JD. He's stealing my picks left and right. He's a very smart drafter. It's been a little annoying drafting next to him, but here we are going to end up taking George Pickens. I think George Pickens is the right pick here. Walking into a decently crowded offense, but the Steelers do know how to draft their receivers. They always have. They rarely draft wide receiver busts. So I think George Pickens is a great pick here. And again, if somebody like Claypool goes down, George Pickens is going to be getting a massive workload. So I already there's a lot of tight ends on the board. Cameron Brake goes. I think here going Zach Wilson, solidifying my last quarterback spot. Also the pairing with Breece Hall. Finally get triple stack. Now I just don't have to worry at quarterback for the rest of the draft. And I can really take one more running back and a few more wide receivers. Or realistically, I don't even know if I really need to take another running back. I think I probably should, but at this point, I look at it as if Christian McCaffrey or Breece Hall goes down, that's probably my season anyways. So I don't think drafting backups to them really makes too much sense. Because nobody's going to be able to replace Christian McCaffrey or Breece Hall. Maybe getting Brian Robinson, I'm not sure where he is. Brian Robinson, potentially here, would be a smart pickup as a backup to Antonio Gibson. But that would be the only backup I could really see. And other than that, just trying to hammer in wide receivers. I think Paris Campbell could be a good pick. There's a lot of players I like. David Bell, I was drafting decently heavily before the Deshaun Watson allegations, or before the rumors of a year-long suspension were coming in. Although I'm not 100% sure if Deshaun Watson will get suspended for a year. I don't understand why players like David Bell are going over Deshaun Watson too. I really don't understand that, because David Bell is not going to be doing anything with. I assume Baker's not going to play. I don't even know who their quarterback's going to be. Same thing with Amari Cooper. I don't know how you could be drafting Amari Cooper at this point with all the allegations going on. I think it's nice to take risks like that sometimes, but I'm not taking him unless he's pretty good value falling to me. Wandel Robinson goes pick 179. I think that's a great pick. I don't think you can really ignore draft capital. Wandel Robinson going in the early second. There really isn't too many other wide receivers like that going this low. I know the Giants are, again, a very risky team, but the coaching staff seems to really like him. Again, drafting him in the early second. I'm all for taking wide receivers based on draft capital, especially late, because you really never know. It's hard to predict wide receiver success in the NFL. These NFL teams obviously know much more than us. So, taking a guy like Wandel Robinson here, I like. Paris Campbell, I could see taking here as a decent option. I think Paris Campbell, as at least like a good wide receiver who could, at least get some touches. He was pretty inefficient last year, 20 targets, 10 receptions, but he only played like 5 games, so it is possible he does get some more touches as he does go off the board here. Mark Ingram has been getting a lot more traction recently. I think if you are drafting Alvin Kamara, it doesn't hurt to draft a guy like Mark Ingram just because I guess the situation is different. Because if you are drafting Alvin Kamara, you're going to need a handcuff because the first 6 games he's going to be out pretty much no matter what. The question is Mark Ingram even going to be the handcuff? Mark Ingram, 32 years old now, about really hard to trust a running back at that age unless you're Frank Gore, who just defies all odds and all time. But very, very hard to trust a running back there. I think what I'm going to do is I'm probably going to end up taking somebody. I think I am going to go Brian Robinson here, just shore up my running back room, and then just hammer wide receivers for the rest of the draft. I think that makes a lot of sense. So I pretty much have everything else I need. I have 3 quarterbacks, 2 tight ends that I feel very confident in. My wide receivers are fairly strong. Samir White, he goes here. Thank God. Oh, I almost accidentally drafted Kendrick Bourne. We are going to go Brian Robinson here. We do. Shoring up our running back rooms, and now we're pretty much set at running back. The only other thing we really have to do is, again, we have great tight ends. Really just hammer wide receivers. And our wide receiver room is okay. We should be able to get 2 more wide receivers. And then we should be fine. Again, we're about to be up again here. I would say AJ Green. I was talking about him before. I think it's good to double up Rondell Moore and AJ Green. Although the Cardinals completely flopped under Kyler Murray the last half of the season, which they have done pretty consistently. I do think that it is kind of fluky, and at least for the first half of the season, AJ Green should be at least serviceable. You should be able to get some value out of him, which is pretty much all you're asking for at this point. And that was my last pick. There's a lot of guys I'd like. James Washington would be one of them. Devin Duvernay, another one. Romeo Doubs, especially since I have Aaron Rodgers and Allen Lazard. I think Romeo Doubs would be good, especially if either one of them goes down. And he has been making some good noise in camps. Like, why not get some exposure? I would say those are really the main 2 at this point. I could also see a case for Khalil Shakir, but I'm pretty sure he already went. I will double check that though. Yeah, Khalil Shakir at 183. Usually I do like drafting him at the end of drafts because he's got a lot of versatility, and I think the Bills' offense is definitely one you can trust to produce good fantasy players. Gabe Davis at pick 50 is a little rich for my taste. For a guy that had, only a few good games. Obviously, everybody remembers the Chiefs-Bills game. Everybody remembers it. It was one of the best games of all time. You can't not remember it. But picking somebody that high for one good game is a little rich for my taste. So I probably would recommend against it. But we do only have 8 picks left pretty much in the entire draft. I think 12 picks left in pretty much the entire draft. So I guess I'll just sum up. My quarterback room is pretty strong. I ended up, I'll do it this way actually. I ended up going Christian McCaffrey in the first and Mark Andrews in the second. 2 players who I think are pretty good. I can't really be too mad about that. I think pairing up Christian McCaffrey and Mark Andrews does seem like really good value. Can't ask for much more than that. Deebo Samuel falling all the way to 23. I neglected to mention that initially, but Deebo Samuel falling to 23 seems like a very, very weird pick to me. I probably would have went Cooper Kupp, Deebo. And honestly, at that point, if I already have these 2 wide receivers, I think going a guy like Kamara here would probably be the smart option. But anyways, so I have McCaffrey, Andrews, Keenan Allen. Then I get Deontay Johnson to fall to me, which is pretty lucky considering the wide receivers between him were Rashad Bateman and Gabe Davis. Breece Hall, again, another pick who fell to me. Antonio Gibson was the opportunity for a starting role. Drake London and Allen Lazard, I think, who both will fall into a lot of targets this year with the respective offenses. Although Drake London's quarterback is terrible. Allen Lazard does have one of the best quarterbacks in the league, so I could be pretty happy about that. For my last pick, all these options look pretty horrible. I'm throwing up. I mean, just looking at them. We will go Romeo Doubs here. I think it is good to get the stack, and we do finish with projected points of 2,849. Not that that matters. And we do have an overall pretty good team. I do like it. It's a very solid roster here. I don't think there's any holes. And we do have some pretty solid strength as well. I would say if we were to pinpoint a hole, it would be QB. I mean, QBs are definitely below average, but we do have 3 to kind of mitigate that. Zach Wilson could have some boom weeks. We should at least have a pretty stable quarterback room. Running back is very boom or bust, but that's kind of what you want. And then wide receiver, top end is boom. Top end is stability. And then other than that, it's all boom or bust guys who could. And then Mark Andrews brings us a lot of stability, and so does Mike Gesicki. So anyways, that I think should be just about it for the video. Again, thank you guys so much for watching. I really hope you guys enjoyed today's video. If you like the content, please be sure to like and subscribe and comment. Comment if you think I'm a complete idiot for one of my picks. Comment anything, honestly. I would love to hear you guys' response. And I thank you guys again so much for watching, and I really hope you guys enjoy the rest of your day.